It was a station wagon that changed the way people thought about practicality and performance. A wagon so serious that it still has a following who believe it can do no wrong, despite it needing repairs every other week. A car so cool, it went around the British Touring Car Championship on 2 wheels like it was nothing. It proved that the Swede Speed was not just a clever play on words, and provided street cred to all the parents who just wanted to have a safe family car, without being forced to give up on the will to live just yet. That's right, I'm talking about the Volvo 850. Intro. In 1978, Volvo company executives held a meeting and decided that it was time for the company to think freely and reach for the stars. Following that theme, they designated a new long-term project, Project Galaxy. The project was created during the height of the oil crises in America. Less than a year before the 1978 Iranian Revolution would result in oil prices skyrocketing in what would be known as the second US oil crisis. These repeated crises helped set the guidelines for Project Galaxy. The new Volvo would have to meet all the standards expected of the Swedish luxury car designer, while also meeting the new regulations imposed by the government on cars on that time. It would have to be light, fuel efficient, handle well, and have all the modern technology that was expected of its time. Most importantly, the Galaxy would have to be a front-wheel drive car. This would be a major step forward for the Swedish car company, as they had only ever produced rear-wheel drive vehicles at this point. Creating this car would be no easy task, and Volvo called the one man they knew who was fit for the job. The man who had led the success of the Volvo Amazon prototype, Rune Gustafsson, was placed in charge of leading Project Galaxy. It's a pretty cool helicopter.
Dude, it shows that we're in Rochester, Minnesota.
Yeah, dude, Mail 1. Bye, sick people. Car companies have been using front-wheel drive cars for a while by 1978, as it freed up interior space and allowed for better handling in inclement weather, such as the 18 feet of snow that we get here 9 months out of every year. I love it here. Dude, it's 40 degrees in September. Like, let's just accept that for a second. It's September.
Yeah.
While many people have given front-wheel drive the nickname wrong-wheel drive, it is arguably the more practical choice for difficult conditions, regardless of its lack of fun. So Project Galaxy was going to be a major step forward for Volvo, and they knew it. In 1985, Project Galaxy gave the world Volvo's first front-wheel drive car, the Volvo 480. And Volvo continued to release major innovations for the company as Project Galaxy was far from over. And on June 11th, 1991, Volvo announced one of their most ambitious projects yet, the Volvo 850 GLT. In fact, they were so proud of the innovations that had taken place with this model that they marketed it under the banner, a dynamic car with 4 world-beating breakthroughs. It was obvious that this car was a big deal to them, and they marketed those breakthroughs any chance they could. You couldn't avoid hearing about them, including the transverse 5-cylinder engine, Delta-Link rear axle suspension, the integrated side impact protection system.
Fortunately, my car comes equipped with SIPS.
Volvo's technologically advanced side impact protection system.
And the self-adjusting front seatbelt mechanism. Volvo was proud of its innovations in technology and advances in safety. The 850s were among the safest cars you could buy at the time, and the public knew it. Rarely has a car received as many awards as the 850 had, and it was only just getting started. On Top Gear, they even praised the car as saying,
"What can I say? Great."
Which is pretty high praise, especially from someone who was shown with dyed red hair literally moments earlier.
Bring on the punk. The Volvo.
One of the major patents held by Volvo was for rear axle bushings that compressed under load. This feature provided Volvo with a form of passive rear steering, which reduced the turning radius. Why did I write circle? One of the major patents held by Volvo was for rear axle bushings that compressed under load. This feature provided the Volvo with a form of passive rear steering, which reduced the turning radius of the car from 39 feet of previous Volvos to 33.5 feet, which made it incredibly maneuverable at the time. Initially, the car was only available as a 4-door sedan equipped with a 2.5-liter 20-valve inline-5 engine, which made roughly 170 horsepower, which provides it with an incredibly distinct engine sound that can never be mistaken. I believe that the Volvo's inline 5 is one of the most unique sounding engines to this day, and it's hard to find something that can really compare to it. When the 850 was brought to the US market in 1992, it was the first of Volvo's front-wheel drive cars to set foot on US soil, which was a major milestone for the company. In February of 1993, less than 2 years after its induction into Volvo's lineup, the 850 GLT 5-door wagon was unveiled and brought to all markets.
And now Volvo has waded in with a new wagon based on its lively 850 sedan. So once again, station wagons are fun to drive. True or false?
This year also debuted the Volvo 850 Turbo, which is the same model as this bad boy that's... yeah. The announcement of the Turbo at the Frankfurt Motor Show may also be my favorite way an engine has ever been advertised, showing a dancing front subframe with lifting engine components. Kind of looks like one of those little robot dogs or those Japanese robots that fall down when they try to play soccer.
The quickness of everything he does is just spellbinding.
I'll show you the video later, it'll make sense.
I have seen those videos.
It's like, you've seen the Volvo one? The front subframe just like twisting about, the engine, like the valve cover lifts, and like the turbo lifts, and it's robots. Like dancing. Oh, the stupid little robots? Yeah, those are like $1,000 robots as well. They're ridiculously expensive, and they can't even play soccer. What kind of robots can't play soccer?
We put all the human standards now.
Yeah, robots are people too, so they should be able to behave like people. Means I want a Robot World Cup. RWC, that took me some time to think about. The 850 Turbo produced 222 horsepower to the wheels, along with about 220 foot-pounds of torque, and could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 7.1 seconds. And I know you fancy people with your sports cars and your hot hatches, that may be slow, but to us common folk, it's pretty fast. It is. 1994 was a very big year for the 850, and during that year, a much-needed facelift was given to the car. It took the front end from looking like a Lego brick and made it look slightly more like a Mega Block instead. And like Mega Blocks, it's a toy that many of us didn't really initially want, but kind of turned out to be better than most other alternatives anyway. And it took the Volvo from looking like a box to, well, looking like a slightly rounder box. But despite the Volvo's sharp edges and boxy yet curved appearance, it only had a drag coefficient of 0.29, which is still really good for most sedans, especially of that year. They also produced in limited quantities the T5R, and this was the first time that the R designation had been used on a Volvo. It was presented at the Geneva Motor Show in 1994, and the Volvo T5R was a real eye-catcher. It was a wagon co-developed by Porsche. How could it not be? It produced 240 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque. It had a top speed limited at 152.2 miles per hour. This car was a force to be reckoned with, and it was a car that put Volvo on the map as a sleeper company, as well as being the birth of long sought-after R-design cars. This special model was intended to be sold in limited quantity at 2,500, and was sold in a dashing yellow color. Now, you could own a car that's the same general aesthetics as the stick of butter or a school bus.
Seatbelts, everyone!
It only took a couple of weeks for the yellow to sell out, so they repeated it again with the same number of vehicles 2 more times, offering it in both black and dark green. To put it lightly, this car was badass and people loved it. That's something on my lip. It felt weird. As a way to prove that you weren't being forced to sacrifice practicality for pleasure, and to prove that driving a brick can be cool, Volvo decided to return to the racetrack in 1994. To do so, Volvo entered one of the most prestigious race series available, the British Touring Car Championships. Volvo had big plans on how to bolster their image as a leader of both practicality and sleepers, 2 things that most other car companies had failed to really prove. The estate car, or station wagon as we Americans call it, was chosen for the race as a PR stunt, but also because it had superior aero compared to the sedan version of the vehicle. But not everyone was on board with the idea though. A Volvo racing driver at the time, Rickard Rydell, said, "When I signed up for Volvo and TWR, Tom Walkinshaw Racing, around Christmas of 1993, I didn't know about the estate plans. If I'd known, I probably would have hesitated." Though he later said that he would have regretted turning down the offer to drive such a crazy car on the track, even though the idea of racing a station wagon really was ludicrous at the time. which is why it was even more shocking when the 850 actually started winning. The heavily modified naturally aspirated engine produced about 290 horsepower, and the stock 5-speed manual transmission was swapped in favor for a 6-speed sequential. The engine head alone was modified so heavily that it was reported to have been cheaper if they just designed a new engine instead of just redesigned the head the way they did. But the extraordinary price of manufacturing proved to be worth it. Even though the Volvo was by far the largest car in the racing series, it was a massive success. Other companies were not pleased with being beaten by an estate car, and to antagonize the other competitors even further, the Volvo team would even place a large stuffed border collie in the trunk just to prove how practical their race car was. While the estate did not win its first season, placing in the 14th position overall, it certainly had garnered the most public attention. People were shocked to see an estate wagon on the track with race cars. It definitely helped the wagon could do a little party trick or go around on 2 wheels because it was badass like that. So there's no stopping this Volvo, not even gravity could. This flamboyant demonstration of superiority was due to the large amount of weight behind the rear axle and a much higher center of gravity compared to the competition. During the next 2 seasons, Rick Rydell and his Volvo 850s came in 3rd place overall during both years. Although they did switch to sedan version after the first season, it didn't stop Volvo from establishing itself as a racing powerhouse. In the spring of 1996, Odin beamed down from Asgard and blessed us with one of the greatest wonders of the universe, the 850R. These cars were monsters, so powerful that the only thing that could stop them was the hammer of Thor itself. These cars featured a stock limited slip differential, heavy-duty manual transmission, excluding US markets, because screw America, am I right? We don't like fast cars here. This car was so extensively modified by Volvo that it could produce upwards of 250 horsepower and 260 foot-pounds of torque from the factory, which was an absurdly high number in 1996, especially for a station wagon. The Volvo 850R retailed for $37,925 in 1965 money, or $60,908 today. And at such an exorbitant list price, the Volvo was expected to perform, and perform it did. It could go 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds. The Volvo 850R managed to fill a niche market that other companies struggled to fill, which meant that people were willing to pay so much for such a monster of a car. I hate you, God. It's just like the gates of heaven, and they're like listing all my sins, and they're like, we have video recording of you saying that you hate God. Go away. Yeah. Just get out. The 850R was an especially large landmark in Volvo's history, as it was the genesis of the Volvo R design, which at the time was Volvo's only performance division marketed towards her street cars. The R design cars proved that Volvo knew what it took to make a fun car that people really wanted, while still maintaining the aesthetic that appeals to the architect or geography teacher inside all of us. The R design symbolized Volvo's drive to mix comfort and performance, and while R design cars may still be available, the true performance division of Volvo was passed down to the Polestar brand in 2010. Honestly, an entire other video can be made on R design and Polestar, so I'll stop ranting about it for now, but in short, they're both kinda awesome. The company's Halo car was met with great success, and from the get-go, the Volvo 850 was heralded by the press as the world's safest car. And according to VolvoCars.com, a total of 1,360,522 850 models were produced during its 5 production years. It's like the same amount that I'm hopefully gonna get paid to make this. Right? Right? Oliver? Please? That's all you have to do. I know you have it. I know you do. It was a good one. Volvo themselves celebrate the 850 as a model that aimed for the stars, and I agree with them. Despite all the problems that these cars may have in actual comfort and reliability compared to their predecessors, they are still beautiful time capsules that are a window into a better time in the company's history. A time when you weren't forced to choose between comfort and performance. A time when taking the kids to soccer practice doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to have a drag race with the less cool parents on the way home. Volvo proved that their cars are loved by more than just architects and college professors. Today, there are countless forums such as Swede Speed and Turbo Bricks are dedicated to cars like the 850 and other Volvo models. It's pretty common if you have any Volvo other than this one to see it with over 200,000 miles on it. I'm just blessed. Blessed with a car that doesn't work. As time goes on, Volvo continues to repeatedly surpass our expectations and surprise us with every vehicle they release. While a car as pure and fun as the 850R may only come around once in a blue moon, it can be presumed that with the advent of electric vehicles, we may be seeing another rise in performance from Volvo sooner than we all expect. While the other cars may be lacking in some of the charm that was held by the older Turbo Bricks, it is still apparent that Volvo has never really given up its quest to aim for the stars.
When the turbine's pushing and the pressure is rising, the blades are pulling and the air is fighting. The turbo gives you power, watch the wheels go spinning. 225, we're way ahead and winning. T5.
Why is Volvo such a hard word to say? It just means it rolls in Swedish. No, wait, it's in Latin. It means it rolls in Latin. I took Latin for 8 years.
Why?
Because I hate myself. And I still don't know any Latin.